nice to have Eli Mardock on the show today from Stonebridge Wealth Systems, and you are hanging out and managing the Omaha office these days. Am I right, Eli?
That is correct, yeah. And it's been really great. Great to see you too, and fun to be back on the show.
Yes. Looks like Tim Kulhonik and Jeff Gove are otherwise occupied.
They're busy guys. So kind of the pinch hitter, I guess, today.
Well, that's good. I'm so glad you could come in because, of course, we're going to talk about retirement planning here on the big show. Welcome on in, everybody, to Retirement Compass Radio Show with Stonebridge Wealth Systems. They want to get you to where you want to go in your retirement plan. How are things going at the Omaha office? Are you liking it? Is the volume good of new people from the radio show?
Absolutely. I'd say the Omaha office is exceeding expectations. So things are, really going great. And it's been a lot of fun. We've met a lot of great families in Omaha. And I think I told you this before, my family's there. And so it's nice to be in Omaha every day. And it's just, it's just a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, you guys must enjoy it and working with people and helping put together the puzzles of people's retirement because so many people, we work so long, 30 plus years. I think that's an understatement these days. I feel like people my age who are just shy of the 65 mark, we've worked longer than that. It's not a 30-year career, man. It's a 45-year career,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for a lot of folks, it's that, you've had a long trudge up the hill and then you sort of get to the top of the hill. How do you get down? And so that's a big struggle for a lot of people. And there's a lot more complications. It's kind of like an Indiana Jones movie. Anywhere you step, there might be a hazard or some sort of peril. So you have to proceed carefully.
Yes, sir. And one of the things they say about, high altitude climbing, like at Denali / Mount McKinley, whatever, they've changed the name. But the natives know it as Denali in Alaska. That more deaths occur, of course, on the way down. And I'm sure that's true at Mount McKinley as well. But
yeah, absolutely. And they say that about Everest and I think a lot of those big ones.
Everest as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really true. I mean, the way up, there's if you compare it to, I guess, being on the seas, that's another way to think about it. You've got open ocean and there's some icebergs. There's some storms for sure. Maybe pirates if you're unlucky. But for the most part, it's smooth sailing. And for the most part, the market's been that way for the most part. We've had a few storms, things like that. But if you look back over at least 10, 15, 20 years, it's been pretty smooth sailings. And you've been able to get a good return. But when you get near the harbor, maritime law actually requires you have a harbor captain. And so if your ship is over a certain tonnage, you've got to have someone that's actually specialized in guiding that ship safely home. And that's sort of what we do as retirement planners.
And that's you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fun. I like that analogy a lot. Stonebridge, we put together this phone number. So regardless of which office that you'd like to be seen at, because they are all the way across the state in the Midwest, 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146 to reach Stonebridge Wealth Systems. And Eli, we have a lot of new tools on board, it looks like. In addition to StonebridgeTaxBill.com, which we've had up for at least 8 months, there's some new ones, and it's getting really fun. Because folks can use all of your resources to maybe understand this could be an introductory point to your firm, right? To get people interested in understanding what's going on with their money. And because we like to do research. People do. They like to hop on there and do their own research.
Yeah, we've got a lot of great new free things. There's a retirement tax calculator, but there's other newer items we just added. That's something that personally I have to admit, I haven't had a chance to go on and look at those, but I know we've got at least 2 new tools on our website, which just the idea here is to give you clarity. It's completely a free resource where you can enter some basic information and really find out what your retirement might look like. Really encourage you to visit the website and check it out.
Sure. And the website, in case you have never visited, it's StonebridgeIWM.com, StonebridgeIWM.com. But lots of free resources on there, and you can also book a sit-down at whichever office you would like. So we, as most retirees, like I said, I'm pre-retirement, but even some advisors really, Eli, focus on how much money you have in retirement. But don't you think it's how you use it? I know Tim and everyone at your firm talks about that. The decumulation, go ahead and enjoy. Isn't that the basic premise? Enjoy your retirement. Use the money. It's what it's for.
Yeah, absolutely. You earned it, right? It's
Right.
You worked hard, and now suddenly you're in a phase of life where you can sit back and enjoy the fruits of your labor, right? And most people, occasionally will encounter someone that really wants, because they love their family, they want to leave a huge legacy for their family, and that's great. You can plan to do that, but at the same time, we really encourage people to really focus on experiences as well. I think I would hope that my kids would want more experiences with me when God calls me home, rather than me just leaving them gobs of cash, right? And so that's I think most people are that way. It's something where anyone, I think, would trade any amount of money they'd receive for more experiences with their loved ones. And so that's something where when you think about living your legacy, we really encourage people. So if you want to help your grandchildren, your kids, you can use gifting strategies. It's a great way to do that. That's tax exempt for the folks who are receiving that, and for you if you're under certain limits here. We can get into the exemption limits, things like that. But it's a great strategy, and also for grandparents. But it's a lot more fun to see that legacy in action while you're alive, rather than when you're gone and you can't really see the impact that you've had.
Certainly. And one of those resources we were discussing is a legacy. I guess you call it a landing page, stonebridgelegacy.net. stonebridgelegacy.net. And essentially, it's legacy done right. That's what Mr. Gove told me. So you can hop on there and have a look around and see how your money is going to influence the family as far as the legacy is concerned. But it's really the drawdown of the assets in general. Don't you agree, Eli? It needs to be done so strategically so that it works in the right way. The points on the compass all go, start with north.
Yeah, absolutely. Income in retirement. So when you think about retirement, there are really 5 key areas, and we call this a retirement compass. So you've got your income planning, you've got investments, you've got taxes, healthcare, and also if you do those things right, you've got a legacy to think about. But they all interact, and one thing will affect the other. What good is investment return? And this is what 95% of investment advisors or financial advisors focus on, is just investments. But what good is return when you lose a lot of it to taxes? So tax strategies are really, really important. It's not just what you earn, it's what you keep that's really important. Or what good is return if you have unplanned for healthcare problems that could have been addressed, or you've got income issues that might affect your investments and open up things like sequence of returns risk. So there's all these things that interact here. And so, but especially with income, you're right. It's not necessarily, you can have 2 couples that make the same amount of money, but where they get their money from will change their tax picture. And so I actually did a workshop last night in Social Security, and it's amazing where there's a couple we demonstrated, let's say they claimed early. And this is not to say there's no right or wrong on when to claim, right? It needs to be intentional. I'd say that. And you should not just do what your neighbor did. You don't want to use anecdotal advice, because your financial landscape is as unique as your fingerprint, right? So you really need to look at your unique situation and not say, well, my dad did this or my mom did this, so therefore I'm going to do that too. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here.
Please,
but
no, it's all right.
With Social Security, where your other income sources come from can have a huge impact. And so if you are, let's say, taking Social Security early and then you're more reliant on your investments for income, well, you're drawing more, let's say, from an IRA, which is tax deferred. It means you haven't paid tax on it. When you take it out, you're going to have to pay taxes. Well, your Social Security, due to a calculation called provisional income, is going to be taxed higher because of your other income sources. So not only are you permanently reducing your own benefit by 30% by claiming at 62 for the rest of your life, you're also losing more of it to taxes, because up to 85% of it is taxable if you're over certain thresholds due to this provisional income calculation. So it's a way that really, by making one decision, Social Security is such a foundational decision in retirement. By getting that wrong, you really set the stage for the rest of your retirement.
Mm-hmm. So Social Security readiness is something that you were talking to the folks about at your talk last
Yeah,
night.
we did a workshop last 2 nights. Yep.
Yes. Sorry, I'm stuck on talk. I don't know why I couldn't spit out workshop. Not enough caffeine,
right.
I suppose, yet.
It is a lot of talking, so you're not wrong. But you got the right idea.
You know, at church, somebody gets up and gives their testament or whatever. That was a very good talk. That so I was stuck on that. Well, that's really good,
it
too.
works.
Yes, StonebridgeRetirement.net is another new landing page, and that talks about the Social Security readiness as well. StonebridgeRetirement.net, and the other one was StonebridgeLegacy.net. And it looks like 1 in 5 retirees or pre-retirees, only 1 in 5 has a structured withdrawal plan for these assets. I think that's bananas in today's world. But I guess that's why we're on the air talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not surprising because, again, most of the time, either, someone's a DIYer and they're relying on Professor ChatGPT or Professor Google to find out strategies, and you're just going to get so much information there. It's hard to filter out what's actually correct and what isn't. And otherwise, you've got folks who maybe they have had to go back to that example of the harbor ship captain, they've had a good open sea captain who's been able to guide them through the open ocean. But now that they're not working and they have to have a distribution plan, they've got no way to navigate that harbor. It's just not, it's not that person isn't a good person. It's just they don't have the expertise to do that. And so you really need a harbor captain.
Sure, because the harbor could be a narrow channel. Like I lived in San Francisco for a while. Boy, ships just used to get wrecked all over because getting through the Golden Gate is very, very tricky. And when all the ships came for the gold rush, people just wrecked the ship and then started running on the land over to the other, try to get on the other side so they could get a mule or whatever up to the gold fields. I mean, you don't want to be stuck with that situation.
Absolutely not. There's just a lot more factors that you have to consider in that situation. And so, and an income plan is really foundational. If it's something where, if you're approaching retirement and thinking about it and you don't have an income plan and you don't have exactly mapped out what your withdrawal sequence or strategy is and how that's going to affect your taxes, not only just your lifestyle, but your taxes as well, and your investments and how healthcare fits into that, then you really are exposed to, again, be like Indiana Jones and you made a wrong step and there's a room full of spikes underneath you, right? So you've got to plan out and make sure you know where you're going.
Sure. Or snakes. Use this number.
Or snakes or rats or whatever it is. So, yeah.
Get your plan together here with Stonebridge. 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. If you want to talk to Eli, he is in the Omaha office. Listen, we'll be right back. We have tons more.
Is your retirement being eaten up by financial termites like hidden fees, inflation, and avoidable taxes? Call today for a complimentary financial review so we can help you root out these retirement killers.
Gosh, we have a good time here on the show, and we hope that you think that's the case too. Thanks for listening and or watching Retirement Compass radio show with Stonebridge Wealth Systems on YouTube. Stonebridge Wealth Systems is the page. And if you give us a like, I know that Eli would be very happy about that. I have Eli Mardock. He's in the Omaha office, but Stonebridge has offices all the way across the state. We've got the big Lincoln office where Tim is usually hanging out. Who's with Tim? Is it Zach?
Yeah, Zach Vankus in the Lincoln office.
Yes. He's the youngster.
He is. He was actually a client of mine, and then I thought, gosh, this would be, I think Zach would be a good fit here. So he came on board. So it was fun.
Is that right? He was your client first?
Yeah, he came through the Dave Ramsey. We're SmartVestor Pros, and so he came through just requesting some more information from Dave Ramsey's website and chatted with him and had him come on as a client, helped him out, and just thought, gosh, Zach's got a good head on his shoulders. He'd be a good fit here. So
he does have a good
he's doing
head.
a great job.
Yeah, he does have a good head on his shoulders. Would you get him hooked up with some life insurance, hopefully? He's a young man, after all.
He is, but he's just about to get married here. So he's got
some needs to protect his family. And
fun landmarks in front of him. So
yes. Goodness sakes. All right. We were talking about the offices. So we covered Omaha, Lincoln. We have Grand Island where John resides, and that covers Hastings. And then we have Kearney, of course, the big new office in Kearney, which just had the ribbon cutting. And, the Goves hang out at that office. And Who else is at that office? At the I know Courtney is. It's kind of the corporate headquarters, isn't it, at the Kearney office?
It is. A lot of the operations are based there. So we've got
Operations. Thank you.
Yep. Elisa there as well, and also in that office, Jeff. Am I leaving someone out? I feel bad. We've got Daniel in the Omaha office. I'm leaving Daniel out.
Scott Noctegal.
Scott Noctegal, of course. Can't forget Scott. But a good amount. I believe we have. It's getting harder to keep track of everyone. We have a growing team here. So
really
I think we're at 11 or 12 advisors at this point. So
that's really nice. Really nice. Very, very educated team of advisors, too. So regardless of where the radio/video audience would like to be seen, consulted, have a visit with, just use one phone number. That's why we put this together, 866-295-5146, so that if you're hearing it on the radio, then you use this number. It goes right to the sweetest young lady who will put you right into the calendar that you're requesting, 866-295-5146. All right, here we talk about the big retirement plan, and it's coming up. Everybody has to retire. Everybody's going to hit 65, and we're in peak 65 right now. The most 65-year-olds are hitting 65, most baby boomers still, and for a couple of years after this, but about 12,000 Americans file for their Medicare and some for their Social Security every single day. Every single day. And now, well, anyway, the challenges are everywhere with the phone system there over at the government, but this means you want to make sure that you have a plan put together for your retirement. And over saving and underspending seem to go hand in hand. And there's a regret there for some people, isn't there? I've got this big fat pot of money.
Yeah, I just met with a couple yesterday, actually, and they've done a great job. And it's awesome to see that, because oftentimes when I'm working with clients that, fall into the high net worth category, it's like they kind of suddenly get there and they don't know what to do, because they started out very small. And I remember her words kind of struck me, because she was like, I've been poor my whole life.
No.
I don't want to, I don't really know. I want to protect this, and so it was kind of an interesting conversation with this couple, because, they had suddenly had this kind of windfall and had some good success, and now their focus was really on protecting it, not letting it go to waste. And so, it was an interesting conversation. But a lot of people, studies show that when people get in that position, they actually can get extremely, extremely conservative, and they're scared to spend anything. There's actually studies that show this. And so, but the big thing I'd say is, and it really can be part of any any part of your financial plan, but when you don't have clarity on what kind of spending you can do in retirement, if you don't have a plan on your spending, if you don't have a plan on your investment withdrawals, if you don't have a plan for any aspect, we talk about that retirement compass, again, that lack of clarity, you have zero confidence in any decision moving forward. And the most powerful thing that you can have, I think, as an individual is clarity. And that comes from just information. It's being informed and intentional about your decisions. And so I always encourage people, even if I'll meet with folks that not everyone's going to become a client, not everyone's going to work with me or with Stonebridge, but if I can send someone out the door, having met with us with more clarity about their situation and better than they came in, I consider it a big win. That's, I think the people that are in this industry for the right reasons, the first thing they think about is, how can I help somebody? And it's kind of a bonus to get paid to do it, and so, but it's something where, talk to your fiduciary, talk to somebody that can help you put together a plan and give you clarity.
Mm-hmm. It's too bad those tests that you have to take are so hard, or I'd be there sitting next to you.
I think you do just fine, Jackie.
Do you do? It's all that math.
Yeah,
No.
You're learning a ton in this show. You're getting a free education here. It's pretty good. You're going to pass with flying colors.
Thanks. You are so right. I have learned so much in the last few years of working with Stonebridge. It's really unbelievable. The things that most people, and if I, share such things with friends and family, they're like, I never heard of that. I'm like, maybe you should listen to my radio show. Anyway, this is interesting because the people who save, they, like you said, they have a windfall or they have a few $1 million and they've done very well. They do, of course, want to hold on to it. And that kind of gets them stuck in saver mode. We're buying a million rolls of toilet paper at once because we don't want to run out. Don't you think it's kind of along those same lines that there's
Definitely.
A little bit of fear and again, they're afraid of the uncertainty. I don't think we're ever going to run out of toilet paper again, but that abundance is a good thing, of course. But you, of course, do want to decumulate it. You want to use it. You want to go on trips. You don't want to have to miss vacations and stuff because you're so worried about saving that money.
Absolutely. Fear can make people do a lot of bad things in terms of decision making, right? And so, say, for example, there's, at least in my experience, the folks that don't get greedy and don't chase after the next hot thing, and the folks that don't get scared and really fearful, they're not selling when investments are down. And it's the same with, it was actually great, the same couple, this conversation. What I really loved about how everything kind of worked out is she was like, at the end of the day, she was like, I want to protect this money, but at the same time, I've been poor my whole life. I want to go out. I want to have fun. I want to spend it. I want to travel. I want to do all these things. And we were actually able to show them sort of what the guardrails were for their budget and say, well, here's where you are now and what you're spending. This is what, not that I'm encouraging people to, hey, go out and spend more than you need to.
No.
But if you have a desire to, this is where you could increase your spending and it wouldn't affect your plan whatsoever, at least mathematically, but it's also something where one evaluation at one day is a snapshot. It's just something you want to reevaluate and keep looking at. Right. But no, it was wonderful to be able to show them, well, gosh, actually, if you want to take a trip, we can build in an extra $20,000 in spending per year for travel and things like that. And you guys are completely fine. So it's wonderful to show people sort of the freedom they have, and to see that sort of hit their faces is awesome. So,
I bet it is, and a weight off their shoulders.
Definitely.
The phone number to call Stonebridge Wealth Systems, 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. Are there risk factors with this decumulation phase? Are there risks?
Definitely. So one, if you don't have a plan, you do risk overspending or taking out withdrawals. One of those I mentioned earlier is the sequence of returns risk.
Okay.
And essentially the way it's financial advisor jargon. So essentially all this means is sequence of returns is that if you had, let's say you had 3 different couples and they all over the course of their retirement had an average of 5% in return. They each have $1 million and they're taking out 4% every year. So the sequence of those returns, that 5% makes a big difference. So let's say couple 1, they retire and it's like it's been over the last 10 years. We've got a bull market. They have this great start, but by the time they pass away in year 30 of their retirement or towards the end of it, it's really bad, right? So they have some really big losses. Well, they actually end up in fine shape. They have a good amount of money. The second person, let's say, second couple, they just invested in a flat 5% across the board, same average return. It's just been 5% across the way. It's less good than the first couple, but they still have plenty of money left. It's somewhere around $500,000 to $600,000, let's say. The third couple, now if they had that same 5% return, but it's the same average return, but let's just turn it around. It's the exact opposite of couple number 1, who had the great start and the bad end. Now they have a bad start and a great end. They run out of money by about year 18. And, they're working as a greeter somewhere or something. So it's a huge difference. And again, it's the same average return, the same withdrawal rate. It's just that large losses are really hard to recover from. And so this is one of the pitfalls, one of those Indiana Jones, booby traps that you want to watch out for is when you enter retirement, what's the economic situation? And if you're really dependent on your investments for income, you've got to be careful about that. That's why stable income, so income that's not tied to the market or to volatility is so important. That's Social Security. It could be a pension. Some folks will use an annuity. I call that the A word because people spit on the ground when you say that. But if used in the right way, there can be a purpose for the right family. Yes. It's got to be mathematically proven using a plan that actually benefits them to recommend that. But there's, creating guaranteed income that isn't tied to market volatility is a huge factor in success in retirement.
Well, you have to get the success going by starting with a plan. It doesn't cost anything to have a pop-in session with one of you educated men, does it?
No, of course not. And, the big thing, I think, when people think of sitting down with a financial advisor, they're thinking there's going to be arm twisting and things like that. And unfortunately, I think it's like people encounter salespeople, And I'm not trying to put anybody down, but there certainly there's very sales oriented people maybe that want to push certain products. What I actually love about Stonebridge, because I came from a company previous to working here that had proprietary products, and it was to their benefit for representatives and advisors to recommend those products because it benefits the company. And that's an intrinsic conflict of interest. What I love, Stonebridge is completely independent as fiduciaries. We're fund agnostic. We're product agnostic. We don't make more money by recommending one investment over another. So it's all about what the client's best needs are. And, there's no arm twisting. Sometimes we're a great fit for people. Sometimes we're not. It's okay. We can part as friends, and happy to stay in contact if people want. But it's just, the first instinct is really to help people and educate.
Sure. And they may want to stay in touch. And then 5 years later, they call and say, I'm ready for that.
Sure. I've had that happen.
Yeah. I bet you have. Tim says it's happened to him a lot. 866-295-5146. Call your friends at Stonebridge Wealth Systems, 866-295-5146. No obligation, no cost.
As Americans, we strive for better. From a better house to a better career to a better life for our children and grandchildren. Better has become the American way. When it comes to your retirement, what does better mean to you? Does it mean more income, a flexible lifestyle, better solutions? A better retirement begins with a financial plan. To get your complimentary written financial plan, call the number you see here. You only retire once. This is your opportunity to plan for better.
Well, if there's someone who understands the income volatility, it is our wonderful ag clients. Welcome back to the show, Retirement Compass Radio Show. Well, volatility in the market is also volatility in our crops and in our beef. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit because it was kind of top of mind, wasn't it, Eli?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of news going on right now, especially with Nebraska being such a big beef producer, just with recent, potential changes in where we're getting beef in the U.S., right, and imports from other countries. And so, it's something that for me, with a lot of our clients, something that we are having conversations about is income volatility as a result of this. And the thing is just, so with prices where they're at, ranchers have had really strong years, but the profits are sort of fragile right now. And so when you look at it, herd counts are lower than they've been. There's been drought conditions that puts more pressure on feed and water costs. You've got this trade policy with importing beef from Argentina that could flood supply, and that would drop these prices overnight. So it'd be a major change here. And you've also got other costs like fuel and labor and feed, and these are all unpredictable too. So while right now gross income has been looking really great, that net stability is shaky. And so that's where really we're encouraging, ranchers, farmers to really have a plan and look at their income. Because you can turn good years like this into lasting income. And so, in a way, if you've had some windfall years, the idea would be, let's sit down, we can think about ways to turn this into long-term stability. And so building a personal income plan separate from the ranch, separate so your household cash flow isn't hostage to what the market and what prices are doing, setting aside profits into different income streams, whether that's fixed income or land leases or equipment notes or IRAs. But it can help, the idea here is let's sit down and let's help you turn a good market or what has been a good market into a 10-year income stream, not just one good year, right? And so there's really some planning there. And that way, if you're 100% invested in cattle, you're really in a way overexposed to a single industry. The business is your portfolio in that way. And so, by sitting down with fiduciary, like someone at Stonebridge, you can balance that agricultural wealth with off-farm investments, and that's going to help you smooth out cycles. And so, I just really encourage people. So, your land, your cattle, everything you have, it gives you risk exposure. What you need to do then, and there's great return in that, is really have investments that give you stability. And so that's I think a key point of planning for a lot of our families that we work with, households here in Nebraska that are farmers and ranchers.
But I think that's a really important message. Of course, they know that they have all their, eggs in one basket. But you're so right about having a more stable income distribution that could last 10 years or more, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it just
depends.
there's, oh, go ahead. Yeah, there's just so many things to look at because you've also got your tax picture. High profits create new problems themselves. And ultimately, when you think about legacy as well, you don't want to let the IRS run your ranch sale either. So there's a lot of things to think about.
For sure. And I tell everyone, for Christmas, send Nebraska beef to your friends and family. It's the best present you can ever receive. Wow, look at this beautiful product, right? When it comes,
that's the truth.
Somebody loves me. Somebody's thinking of me. They're sending me Nebraska beef. All right. Here's the phone number to reach Stonebridge, 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146, Stonebridge Wealth Systems. And you can also find this show up on YouTube. And the page is called Stonebridge Wealth Systems, just like we say on the air. So if you'd like to go there, have a look-see at what all the fellas look like, and then click like, please. Check the box or whatever they always say. We'll be right back.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
So the best strategy is the one that you're going to follow. Welcome back to the show, Stonebridge Wealth Systems, bringing you Retirement Compass radio show. I saw somebody say a quote one time about life insurance. Tom Hegna, he's an author, and he said the best life insurance policy, because somebody was asking about this kind of life insurance, this kind. He said the best life insurance policy you could ever have is the one that's in force while you need it, when you need it. This is not about life insurance, this segment at all, but it really is important to have the plan put together, because then your legacy could be messed up if you don't have an income plan.
Well, you're right, and sticking to it is a huge part of it as well. You could
really,
you could have a personal trainer who tells you, Jackie, you've got to go to the gym for 4 hours every day, and you're going to meet all your goals. It's going to be fantastic. I'll show you how to do that. And I have a feeling, just a guess, don't be insulted, that you probably wouldn't stick to that plan. Probably wouldn't, right? And so a financial plan is similar, right? We could say, well, you need to do this and you need to do this, but if it's really not realistic for what your goals are and what's realistic for you, it's too much and you're going to fail. And so, yeah, that's a great way to start this, but you're right. Having a plan is really, really important. And designing a plan that works for your life and your lifestyle. There's an art and a science to this. The science is what's mathematically perfect. And we use that all the time. But the art is the human element, right? So when we say art and science, it's this marriage between what's mathematically perfect or ideal and what works for us as people, as human beings. And so your plan has to be that. Your plan, there's an art and a science to financial planning. And so, when it comes to your income, having an income floor, knowing what you really need. So that's a basic thing. I try not to use the word budget, but look at your cash flow, what's coming in, what's coming out. What do you need every month? And what do you need to be able to have to build an emergency fund and have some comfort? So that's kind of the first step.
But it's not a matter of telling people, looking at their, money in and money out and saying, less trips to Runza. You guys are done with Runza. You've got to save money. I mean, that's only in the dire emergency. You just want to look and see what people are spending the money on and making sure that your trips to Runza on Wednesday with the grandkids, can still fit into the budget.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's never, I think I would never have a conversation and say, hey, you need to do this and you need to do that. Really, our role as planners and advisors is to, and honestly, for a lot of people, they just have good habits and they might not have a budget and they save money every month because they just live frugally. There are other clients or other folks I'll meet with that they get money and they spend it. And so you have to have a plan. And usually the best thing to do is to save first and then spend later. So take it out of visibility, out of sight, out of mind. If you set things up where with your bank, you have money hit and you automatically move a certain amount into account where it's there, but it's not visible. It's not right in front of you. Your chances of saving and being consistent with that, or let's say you're contributing to a Roth IRA or to anything else, that really works because again, you're going to fit your budget around or your cash flow around what's available and you're saving first.
That's really
Makes
smart.
a big difference.
Big difference as opposed to, well, here's your number. I'm going to hand this out to folks, 866-295-5146. Call Stonebridge Wealth Systems and plan a sit-down, 866-295-5146. There's no fee for this. There's no, schedule. Okay, you get 15 minutes of free talk. Now go. It doesn't work like that. But you can book this at whichever office you'd like at 866-295-5146. That income floor and what you described just now as putting the money away and it kind of just disappears, as opposed to spending whatever you want out of your paychecks. And then, here it is. We get paid tomorrow. We'll put the rest of this in savings. That doesn't happen. Psychologically, we always say, okay, we get paid tomorrow. What else do we need? Right? This is another trip to Costco or Sam's Club or, we do need tires, So I like that psychology you used.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just something where, again, I hate to beleaguer this point, but it's a word I use a lot, is just having clarity around it. If you actually understand it, you don't need to guess about what it is. And if you really understand your income floor and what you need covered, then you know that you've got flexibility above that.
Okay.
And really the next step then is, does it make sense to have guaranteed income? Of course, we mentioned stable income before and income that's not tied to market volatility. And so the next step is really, if it makes sense with your plan, are you someone that needs a guaranteed source of income that's going to help you, that can't run out? And so that's one thing you can look at. Nice. And that would be something that's supplemental to your Social Security or supplemental to other types of income you have. Oftentimes we'll look at bucket strategies for clients as well. I've got a client, for example, that has done quite well, former C-level executive. In his IRA and also, it's not in his IRA, it's in his taxable account, we've set up a bucket system where essentially we've got 5 years of income set up in conservative assets that aren't tied to market volatility. And so these are things like money market. We use structured notes. We're using TIPS or Treasury, inflation protected bonds. But setting up a conservative short-term bucket, so to speak, and then a medium-term bucket, which is another 5 years of income needs. So using that income floor again. So you have 5 years in conservative, 5 years in balance, and then everything else is more growth-oriented, and you probably won't ever have to touch that bucket. But again, if we were to have a market event where, let's say like earlier this year with the tariff stuff that happened, the market drops by 18 to 20%, you're pulling from a money market fund and allowing your other investments to recover.
Oh.
So being strategic about this makes a lot of sense, and that's going to reduce your exposure to sequence of returns risk.
Hey, that's very
clever. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes. Do you pull from this account so that this can grow?
Absolutely.
Yeah, during a down market. Now, these kinds of strategies are, of course, you could study it until you're blue in the face on the internet, but it's probably most of us are an expert in another field already, or two. Some people have 2 and 3 careers, and of course we learn as we go. Everybody's curious. But putting all these strategies together, I think, requires a Stonebridge visit. Stonebridge Wealth Systems at 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. The guaranteed income, Social Security is a guaranteed income.
Yep,
well, we
absolutely.
hope, God willing.
That's a great, it's a great thing to have when you think about it. Social Security is really cool. I think about my own situation. So, because it's just the way it's set up. Sometimes you forget about these things or you take it for granted. But say, for example, you've had one spouse lives at home and is with the kids and works out of the home.
Like your family, right?
Yeah, absolutely. My wife works out of the home. She's got 4 full-time jobs. We've got 4 kids, 5 if you count me. So really hard work. But, on her Social Security statement, it's going to be lower than mine, right? Because she's not going to have income on that. But what's really neat is with that spousal income picture, she's entitled to up to half of mine. And so whatever my primary insurance amount ends up being, she'll receive up to half of that to claim on her own. And that'd be her spousal benefit. But the neat thing about that is that it recognizes the value of people who work out of the home, and then also, cool. At the point, men tend not to live as long as women. So God calls me home, she would receive my full amount. And so it's something where when you're planning around things like this, extending, if you've been the higher earner, delaying your own Social Security to protect your spouse and give them more long-term income if they're likely to outlive you is something you can do that's really important for the people you care the most about.
Oh, sure.
So it's a great strategy.
And fellas like you, I know, you, Tim, Jeff have young'uns in the home. I think that Scott Noctegal's daughter's in college now.
I think you're right. Yep.
I don't think she's at home anymore, but hopefully you have more protections than just counting on Social Security in the way of, life insurance or things of this nature, in case something does happen to you out there on the highway and byway.
Most definitely, yeah. I mean, you've got to, again, you can't look at everything in a silo separately. Okay. You've got to put it all together. And so, when you're thinking about income and legacy and all these things, it can be overwhelming. And kind of what you said before, it just reminded me, this is stuff you certainly can try to do a lot of it on your own. You might be an expert in your field if you're in the medical profession or if you're in anything else, but it's stuff that we do every day.
Sure.
And we'd be happy to sit down with you and show you our expertise.
And having someone on your side, I think that's really important for families to understand. Maybe it's just for women, but having somebody on your side that you've already planned this stuff with, and then something does happen. Well, wait, I'm going to call Eli because he knows my entire picture. Eli, this is what's happened. What should we do, or how do I deal? Or it could be you calling me in case something happened to my husband and there's, life insurance payout or something of this nature.
Sure. Yeah.
But that's why you want to work with someone who keeps up with you, and you have quarterly or half-yearly appointments to see what's changed. Or Tim is doing his tax strategy sessions with a lot of his clients right now, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And yet we're doing the same thing in the Omaha office. So we're looking at things like Roth conversions, kind of year-end tax things. And so it's a busy time. Calendar is definitely full.
But so, you do have time to speak to new people.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. We block out certain days for reviews, and we always leave time to meet new friends. So
that's good. Kind of like my doctor's office, you call and say, I'm bleeding from the eyes. Can I come in or whatever? I'm very sick. And they're like, yep, we can see you. How about 2:30? I'm like, wow, that was easy. Well, we block off schedule for people who are ill and not just the regular physicals and all that stuff. So I'm glad to know that you guys reserve some time for folks. All right, here's the phone number, and here's the roundup on this segment. 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. Call Stonebridge Wealth Systems. You can also find out about your tax situation with your IRA going forward and looking into your retirement future. The crystal ball is StonebridgeTaxBill.com. StonebridgeTaxBill.com. But get on the schedule, have a sit-down visit, and they can see you all the way across the Midwest, of course, anywhere in Nebraska. Sioux Falls included in this, and Kansas even. Wherever you are, you're hearing the signal from the radio station, 866-295-5146. Now we'll be right back with some scenarios, including some, well-disguised questions and answers.
Did you ever think your retirement would be shared with our government? It's true. Your traditional 401k, IRA, pension, or similar retirement accounts are like a partnership with the IRS. Simply put, they want their tax dollars, and you have them. With our latest tax calculator, you can plug in your own numbers while sitting at home. To find out what your future tax liability could be, scan the QR code or go to stonebridgetaxbill.com.
Well, we've had a kind of a bumpy market a little bit with news of this, that, and the other thing, and maybe some people want to pull their money and put it into cash. We're going to cover a couple of these scenarios on Stonebridge Wealth Systems Show, Retirement Compass Radio Show. I'm Jackie Selby, and I have Eli Mardock here. Eli, we're having a good show so far.
Yeah, this has been fun. It's very extemporaneous. I like that.
Where's my dictionary?
Oh, it just
Outside
we're winging it.
Yes.
So that's the fun part.
I'm like trying to remember my Latin training.
Sorry.
Teasing you. Oh, goodness sakes. Now, I was thinking that we could cover a couple of situations for people of different ages. So I'll start here.
Sure.
If somebody was in their mid-70s with no long-term care insurance, and they recently, I think all of us have watched folks, towards the end of life, maybe in nursing care or something, this could drain the savings, and paying for memory care especially. That is so long-lasting, it seems like. So
Yeah.
if someone's in their mid-70s, do you think it's too late to start planning for long-term care for themselves? And what are the options at this point?
Well, there's never any point where it's too late to have a plan. That's one certainty here. But, when you're in your 70s, definitely traditional long-term care policies, these are really expensive and they're hard to qualify for. The underwriting is absolutely brutal.
Okay.
But there are effective ways you can plan it. And also, I'll just add with traditional long-term care, that's just really, really tough. You're paying in a lot of premium for something you hope you never will have to use. So this is if you get approved. But then also, just because of the cost, we've noticed with some clients, those premiums can go up and up and up, and people get priced out of policies they've held for decades, even if they got these traditional policies in their 50s, right?
So what's there to do?
Well, first you want to look at what you have. So you can leverage what you have already. So if you're looking at your investment accounts, what you've got in savings, what you can do is earmark a certain portion of that into more conservative investments that you could use for long-term care. Now, if you're a ways away from that, maybe you can be a little bit more growth-oriented. You could also utilize a form of bucket theory, even with that sort of account that's earmarked for long-term care. So look at what you've got, sort of available to you now, and plan from there. And from there, you really, as I mentioned, you can create sort of a version of bucket theory, which would be a care bucket, essentially. So it's something where you're accounting for these heightened expenses. You've got a bucket that's growing and ready to be used for that. And if you never need it, great. It goes to your family, right? Make sure your beneficiaries are updated. And then, lastly, I'd just say is you want to make sure that you've got, from your estate and your tax planning perspective, everything's set up in a way that's clean as well. And this is sort of part of planning around that. It's just making sure that you've got your power of attorney set up. That's really important. Don't assume that your spouse, by the way, because you're married, will have financial power of attorney. If you've got IRAs, et cetera, in your name, and they're not going to have access to, they will not be able to access those accounts simply because they're married to you. So you need to have financial power of attorney set up.
Oh boy.
So it's a very important thing. So have that for both couples. But you want to just make sure all this stuff is set up in a way that it's not only gives you peace of mind, but for your loved ones, it's easy for them to access. And while they're kind of helping you through this phase or this part of your life, there's emotional stress, but they don't need financial stress on top of that. So making sure everything's set up is really important.
Isn't that so true? Have a sit down and let's map some of this out. See if your compass is aligned with the retirement compass from Stonebridge Wealth Systems, 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. I think that's a really good question. Long-term care, oh boy, isn't that just...
It's always the most fun thing to talk about.
It's not a sexy topic. I think that's why nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah, no one wants to use it. No one wants to pay for it. And if you use it, you're terrified your care is going to be absolutely horrific. So it's a tough topic, but
it doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't have to be. No, and I actually have had some clients that I just had a client pass away, and he had a really great experience with the team that was taking care of him. So there's good stories out there too.
Yes and yes. Again, on Stonebridge number 866-295-5146. How about this one? Somebody wants to leave an inheritance for the kids, but they're unsure how taxes and probate might eat into this. They have a house, some IRAs, and a brokerage account. What's the smartest way to structure things now to make inheritance easier and more tax efficient?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've got a couple and they're really concerned about leaving a legacy for their kids, they've got a house, they've got some IRAs, a brokerage account, the most important thing right away is to divide your estate into probate versus non-probate assets. Does that make sense? Have you heard these terms before, Jackie?
Yes. So
perfect. So when you think about what that is, probate means it's going to have to go through the court system.
It's a court case, gosh darn it.
Yeah, absolutely, okay. Yeah. And a will, anything that's in your will go through probate, for example. But if you have a brokerage account, some IRAs, those are direct to beneficiary. Those avoid probate. So it's something where the most important thing there is for your brokerage account, that's also called an individual account, or you might have a joint tenants with rights of a survivorship account, and any individual IRAs you have, that beneficiary form is the most important thing you can do. And so if you're listening to the show right now and you're thinking, what can I do to make my estate plan as seamless as possible? Go double check your beneficiary forms, because we've certainly heard horror stories of someone not updating them because I updated my will, I don't need to update my beneficiary form. Wrong. It trumps anything you have on your will or even in your trust to your custodian or the people that the company that holds those funds. That form is the law. And so if you've got some ex-wife or former girlfriend from when you were in college on your beneficiary form, guess what? They're getting it. So you need to update it. So that's thing number one. But for your home, there's a couple different options you can look at. If you've got a house in Nebraska since 2013, you can do what's called a transfer on death deed. What this is you can actually turn your home into a direct beneficiary item. So rather than have your home go through your will, where it goes through probate and, a judge essentially will look at the will and say, well, gosh, this is where the house goes, that sort of thing. That can take anywhere from 6 months up to, well, if you have a very complex estate, 2 years or more. And so usually not that much, but you're also paying probate costs. They might have to have an assessor. So there's additional things that have to happen. If it's transfer on death deed, you're just going to fill out that form. It's 4 pages long. You're going to essentially sign it, name your beneficiaries for the property, go file it with the Register of Deeds in your county. So Lancaster County, Douglas County, wherever you're at, where, in Nebraska or other states, and check in your state as well. I know Missouri offers this and most states do, but you'll file that with the Register of Deeds. And then when you pass away, all your beneficiaries have to do is go to the Register of Deeds. They'll take a death certificate there to show that you've passed away, and the transfer is instant. They will then fill out a transfer real estate form, and that property is there. So you're avoiding probate, avoiding all this stuff, avoiding the probate fees, and it's much simpler, much more seamless.
I know that it is a lot easier to think about all of these details when you have a starting point and you have somebody, if not you, another member of Stonebridge, that can map all of this out. Because it's just like, I'm going to work out. I got this gym membership, and I'm going to get healthy in 2026. And you go a couple of times, you're like, I don't know, I don't have any focus on this, and I really don't like the smell of it in here. But if you register for those first 3 free, appointments with a workout coach, then now you have some focus.
Absolutely. And it keeps you on it. And, Jackie, with that question, there's one important thing I left out that I wanted to talk about, and that's the tax efficiency part.
All right.
So if you look at this couple, they've got the home and they've got a brokerage account, a taxable account, right? Mm-hmm. How does that inherit to how does the next generation get those items? They get a stepped up basis, meaning that the value of those items at the time of your death is essentially what their cost basis is. So they could turn around and sell those items without any tax. That's pretty cool. But for those IRAs, what's the big tax problem there? They have to, if you haven't paid tax on that yet, it's fully taxable to your beneficiaries. So this is something you'd want to explore. If this couple is really concerned about, well, how do we make things easy and how do we make them tax efficient? Mm-hmm. Those IRAs are a ticking tax time bomb. And it's something where they will be taxed at whatever your children's tax rate is. And they have to take it all out now over a period of 10 years and pay tax on all of it. That was a change with Secure Act 2.0. So it's something where IRAs are really, unless you're giving it to a nonprofit, they won't be taxed on that. But if you're giving it to individuals, and this couple with their kids, they really want to look at a Roth conversion strategy likely and get that moved over to where it's a tax-exempt asset and fully tax-free to their children when they inherit.
To their kids. This is a good idea. And we were going to talk about some church charities and how this could benefit folks when they are at RMD age. Eli, so what are the advantages there to just, because most people by 73 have their expenses already set up.
Sure,
they already
yeah.
know how their lifestyle functions. And here comes this great, huge RMD. What am I going to do with this, $60,000 or $100,000?
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of, you can call it a ticking tax time bomb or a tax torpedo. But I met with a couple a few days ago that's done very well. They have a nice sized IRA. And they're planning and looking, well, what do we need to do? And when we show them what their RMDs are going to be, they happen to be born after 1960, so that'll start at 75 for them. At that time, they'll be taking out, and they don't need the income, by the way. They're forced to take out on the IRS's schedule more than $200,000 a year in income and pay tax on all of it. And because that's based on the uniform lifetime table with the IRS, it's actually based on your life expectancy. As your life expectancy goes down, the amount they have to pay goes up. So every year, by the time they're in their mid-80s, they're taking out $350,000 a year that they don't need an income and paying tax on it. By the time they're 90, if they make it that long, it's $550,000 plus that they have to take out. And so Roth conversions are really a great way to, for them, mathematically, it saved them a ton, and I mean a ton of money to significantly reduce those RMDs and have control over what their tax picture is.
Uncle Sam is going to come for their money. And that's the problem with the 401k/IRA accounts. They have never been taxed. And there's so much money being held in those, up to the trillions of dollars. Ask the guy at the statistics office over there at the Pentagon, or the White House, And boy, I feel sorry for that team, don't you? How are they supposed to enact all these things?
They're not there, are they? So they're at home waiting to see when they're going to get a paycheck, I think.
That's right.
So they're like, finally answer yourself.
That's right. So golly. Listen, if you'd like to talk to Stonebridge about any of these things, it's a no charge, no obligation. Truly, there's no obligation. You can sit down and say, this is what I'm concerned about, and this is how it plays into my picture, because the things we just discussed are just general terms. But what are your specifics? Call Stonebridge at 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. You could also consult the YouTube channel, and there's a QR code on there, very high-tech and fancy. And the YouTube channel is Stonebridge Wealth Systems, Stonebridge Wealth Systems. And for us, that's about it, Eli. Great show today.
Awesome. That's a wrap. Yeah, thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. One more time on the phone number, 866-295-5146. See you next week.